Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
So, today we're tackling something pretty fundamental, actually. It's about how we learn, how we think.
Right. Critical thinking and strategic processing.
Exactly. You hear these terms thrown around all the time, right?
Right.
Education, work.
Oh, yeah. Constantly. You'd think we'd all be perfectly clear on what they mean and how they fit
It's
together.
good to think.
Yeah.
But we were looking at this review article.
From Educational Psychology Review last year.
That's the one.
Right.
March 2023. Critical thinking and its relation to strategic processing. And it suggests, well, it's not quite that simple.
Not at all. It kind of hits the nail on the head right away, doesn't it? This core problem.
Which is?
That even though we use these words critical thinking, strategic processing all the time, there's no single definition everyone agrees on for either of them.
And that's not just like academics splitting hairs, is it?
No, definitely not. I mean, think about it. If you and I mean slightly different things when we say critical thinking.
Then how can we possibly study it properly or figure out how to get better at it?
Exactly. It makes comparing research or designing ways to teach these things really, really difficult.
Right. So that's kind of our mission for this deep dive, isn't it? To unpack what this review says about how we are currently looking at these concepts.
Yeah, and hopefully pull out some useful insights for anyone listening who wants to, learn better or think more sharply.
Okay, so that first big point that jumped out, this lack of common definitions, let's dig into that a bit more. Why is it so hard to define them?
Well, the authors point out they're both what you'd call complex cognitive constructs. Meaning they're abstract internal processes. It's like trying to define, I don't know, creativity or intelligence. Everyone sort of gets the gist.
But pinning down the specifics is tough.
Precisely. For critical thinking, some definitions focus more on logic. Others might emphasize problem solving or evaluating arguments. And strategic processing is just as broad. It could be about planning study time or the specific mental tricks you use to grapple with new info, connecting it to what you know, that kind of thing.
So lots of different facets.
Right. And the review mentions that researchers have kicked around different ideas for how these two could relate conceptually. Like maybe one is part of the other or they overlap.
But without clear definitions of the pieces.
It's hard to build a solid model of how the whole system works together. It's a bit fuzzy.
Okay, fuzzy definitions. That definitely complicates things. So given that challenge, how are researchers trying to study the connection in the real world? What are they actually doing?
This is where it gets really interesting, I think. The authors did a systematic review.
Meaning they looked at a whole bunch of existing studies.
Exactly. They scanned the landscape to see how people are investigating this link. And what they found was, well, pretty striking. An overwhelming reliance on self-report surveys.
Asking people questions about themselves.
Yep. And one particular questionnaire, the MSLQ, the Motivated Strategies for Learning questionnaire, kept popping up.
The MSLQ. Okay.
It seems to be the main tool researchers are using right now to measure both strategic processing and things they consider related to critical thinking.
So hold on. For listeners not familiar, what does the MSLQ actually ask people? What's it getting at?
It's basically asking people to reflect on their own habits. So for strategic processing, it might be questions like, how often do you try to link new ideas to things you already know? Or how well do you manage your study time?
Okay, self-reflection on strategies.
Right. And then for the critical thinking aspect, it might probe things like, how often do you question what you read? Or do you try to look at issues from multiple angles?
I see. So the MSLQ covers a lot of ground.
It does. Motivation, different learning strategies, and the review found it's kind of the default tool for getting at both the strategy side and the critical thinking side in current research.
So researchers are basically asking people, hey, how strategic are you? How critical do you think you are?
Pretty much, yeah. That's the dominant approach they identified.
Well, it's an approach.
Mm-hmm.
But it immediately makes you wonder, doesn't it? How good are we at judging our own thinking processes?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah. I mean, what are the pros and cons of leaning so heavily on what people say about themselves?
Well, there are some pluses. Self-reports are relatively easy to deploy. You can get data from lots of people quickly.
Sure, practicalities.
And they can give you a window into someone's self-awareness, their own perspective on how they learn. That's valuable.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the downsides?
They're potentially pretty significant. First, people might just not have accurate insight. We're not always great judges of our own internal workings.
Right. We might think we're doing one thing, but
Yeah.
actually be doing something else. Then there's social desirability bias.
telling researchers what you think they want to hear, or what makes you look good.
Exactly. Answering in a way that sounds better, more diligent, more critical than maybe you really are.
And even just how a question is phrased can nudge the answer. So while we get a lot of data on perceived skills,
We might not be getting a clear picture of actual skills in action.
that's the concern raised in the review, yeah.
Yeah.
It suggests that our models of how these things connect might be built on, let's say, slightly less firm ground than we'd like.
That makes total sense. Someone could rate themselves highly on questioning assumptions, but then just accept everything they read online without a second thought.
Precisely. The self-perception might not match the reality.
Okay, so if the research is so heavily weighted towards these self-reports, what does the review say are the bigger implications? What does this trend mean for our understanding?
The main implication is that we might have a limited, maybe even skewed view of both concepts and their relationship.
Skewed how?
Because we're focusing so much on the internal perception, what people say they do, we could be missing vital parts of how these skills actually play out in real situations.
When the rubber meets the road, so to speak.
Exactly. The authors really push for broadening the toolkit, methodologically speaking.
Using different ways to measure these things.
Yes. Think about it like fitness. If you only asked people how fit they felt, you'd get some information.
But you'd miss a lot compared to actually watching them exercise or testing their strength.
Right. The review suggests something similar here. We need more diverse methods. Maybe observing people solving problems, analyzing their writing or arguments, using tasks that require them to demonstrate critical thinking or strategic approaches.
Getting under the hood, not just asking the driver how the car feels.
That's a good way to put it. It could give us a much richer, probably more accurate picture.
Okay, so the review points out these limitations, but also offers ways forward, right? Recommendations for future research.
Yes, definitely. They have some key suggestions.
And how might those be relevant for listeners trying to improve their own skills?
Well, first, they stress the need for researchers to be way more explicit about their definitions.
Just be clear about what they mean by critical thinking or strategic processing in this particular study.
Exactly. Nail down the terms. Clearer definitions in research would eventually filter down, helping educators and learners have a better shared understanding of what skills we're actually talking about developing.
Okay, step 1, clarity in definition. What else?
Step 2 builds right on our earlier point. Diversify how we measure these things.
Get beyond just the questionnaires.
Right. Use a wider range of assessments. And for the listener, this is quite direct, I think. It means your own sense of your skills shouldn't just come from introspection.
Don't just rely on your gut feeling about how strategic you are.
Pretty much. Actively look for chances to put those skills into practice and get some kind of external feedback.
Like what?
Like working on a challenging project, engaging in a structured debate, maybe getting feedback on a written analysis, tasks where you actually have to apply critical thinking and strategies, and someone or something can give you feedback on how well you did it.
So move from thinking you're a critical thinker to showing it and seeing the results.
That's the idea. It could give you a much more grounded view of your strengths and weaknesses.
That feels really practical. Okay, was there a third main recommendation?
Yes, the third one was about taking a more developmental perspective.
Developmental, meaning how things change over time.
Exactly. Recognizing that the relationship between critical thinking and strategic processing probably isn't static. It likely evolves as a learner gets more knowledgeable, more experienced.
So how you think critically as a novice might look different from how you do it as an expert.
Precisely. And the strategies you use might need to change too. So for anyone interested in long-term growth, it's important to realize your approach might need to adapt to become more sophisticated over your learning journey.
It's not a one-and-done skill, but something that grows with you. That's important. Okay, let's loop this back directly to our listeners. They want to learn effectively, get those aha moments, maybe avoid feeling swamped by information. How does understanding all this help them?
Well, knowing that a lot of the current understanding is based on self-perception kind of empowers you, doesn't it?
How so?
It means you can be more critical of your own self-assessment. Don't just assume you're great at this stuff. Actively test yourself.
Be metacognitive about it. Think about your thinking.
Yes. Ask yourself, are my learning strategies actually leading to deep understanding? Is my critical analysis solid? Am I reaching well-supported conclusions?
and seek out different kinds of challenges.
Right. Knowing researchers are being encouraged to use diverse measures might prompt you to seek diverse ways to test yourself and get feedback, different kinds of tasks, different contexts. That variety is likely key to real growth and those deeper insights.
And for the overwhelmed piece.
Understanding these core concept strategies, critical thinking, even with the fuzzy definitions, can help you be more intentional. You can approach new information with a plan, with a critical eye, which can make learning feel less like drinking from a fire hose and more focused.
All right, more purposeful. Okay, great. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the main headline from this review article, the core takeaway?
I'd say the core message is, we know critical thinking and strategic processing are crucial, but our research understanding of how they connect is heavily influenced, maybe even limited, by this strong reliance on self-report methods.
So there's a need to do better.
Yeah. The review basically calls for clearer definitions, more varied ways of measuring these skills, and looking at how they change over time to get a fuller, more accurate picture.
Okay. And that brings us to our final thought for you, the listener.
Yeah.
Given that so much of the research rests on how people think they think, how might actively seeking out external checks, maybe tough feedback, challenging group projects, even mentorship, give you a surprisingly different, maybe more useful view of your own critical thinking and strategic processing abilities?
That's a really good question to chew on. How do you really know how good you are at this stuff?
Something to ponder.
Huh.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.